You know the Venga Boys song, Boom Boom? It's bloom,
Oh
bloom,
my
bloom,
God.
bloom. We want you in the room. Come spend the day
Ah!
together. Together we will bloom.
Oh my God. Amazing. Welcome, Andrea, to the Cunty Realness podcast. Welcome, everybody. We are so happy to have you here, have Andrea with us. I will go ahead and let you introduce yourself, Andrea. But just a little quick note that Andrea and I met at the Most in LA this year, and it was the best. It was a highlight of my year. And we got tattoos together and we've hung out since. We had a girls' weekend in Burlington. It's just been such a beautiful relationship. We've done the bear coaching certification together. Like, girl,
You're writing a
it's been an
chapter
amazing
in
year.
Body
Oh,
Bliss.
yeah.
Don't forget about that.
I know. I have to remember all of these things. Yes, so exciting, so exciting. I booked myself some time down south to take some time to actually do that. I think I'm gonna give myself a little like writer's retreat, a little mini
Ooh, that
writer's
sounds
retreat.
amazing.
Yay! Okay, so Andrea, tell us who you are and what you do for the world.
I always feel like this is such a loaded question because, like we were talking
Sorry.
about, no, it's okay. Like we were talking about before we hit record, like I am definitely
Mhm.
a multi passionate human, but at
Mhm.
the ultimate core of the change that I feel like I was put on this earth to do, that is to create impact for people who are on their pursuit of wellness and happiness, which everyone to some degree
Yes.
is on that path. And it stemmed from my own journey, which maybe we'll get into, likely we will. But my official title, I'm using air quotes, is like a lifestyle transformation coach. So I work
Mm.
with people who are wanting to shift the way that they view themselves, the way that they view their body, the way that they look at wellness habits and what those can be versus what we
Mhm.
are sold and told what those should be and how that can look like.
Yes.
In that approach, I do that obviously through one on one coaching. I do that through speaking and workshops. I had a podcast for 3 years where I did a lot of that preaching. But really, ultimately, it all boils down to mindset, right? And it's like helping people to rewrite the stories that they have been sold and told
Yes.
about who they should be, how they should show up in their life, how they should show up in the world, and encouraging them to take up space in their lives, both
Yes.
physically and metaphorically.
Yes. And tell us the name of your company again.
Ooh, Balance and Bliss is the overarching umbrella. And yeah, lots of stuff under there too. Like I launched a book in 2020 called You Actually Can Do This: Achieving a Healthy Lifestyle
Yes.
in Spite of Yourself. Since then, I've also led co-author projects, which is you're in the third volume. The co-author projects are called Body Bliss. So they
Yes.
are projects where each chapter is a different human sharing their story as it relates to navigating body image and body acceptance and just the relationship with their body in their own lives. Because I think that every single person on this planet has a body. And
Yes.
therefore, we all have thoughts and feelings about that body based on what we've been
Mm-hmm.
told, etc. And
Mm-hmm.
so, in the sharing of stories, which is so powerful, we can
Yes.
create those ripples of change. So, I lead those author projects. Like I said, we're in the third one now. It's going to come out in spring, summer 2024. And then I'm actually in the process of also writing my second book, all the things, where it's
Yay.
like, I've taken all of this information in 2020 that I had learned up until that point, and I still very much stand behind all the stuff I shared in there. But I'm a human and I'm growing and I'm
Mm-hmm.
learning and I'm evolving, and I've got so much more to share. My story is
Aw.
not done. Our stories are never done.
Yeah.
So I'm writing this new book, essentially, I've titled it right now. It's a working title, but
Mhm.
Embodying Bliss. So breaking free from the
Mm.
shoulds, moving into more joy. And so it's just sharing, it's a kind of like a self help memoir. So lots of anecdotes, lots of storytelling mixed with like actionable steps that people can take to really lean into embodying complete and total bliss in their lives.
Aw. I love that so much. And I'm so excited for you and for this catalog of books that you have been creating. It's just incredible. And I'm very grateful to be a part of that. I'm so honored and excited to be a part of volume 3 of Body Bliss. And I think this embodiment of bliss is easier said than done,
Oh my God.
right? Like in our society, I hear, and myself included, there's a lot of burnout going on. There's a lot of we don't really know what our bliss is, and we push it too hard, and then we go on this burnout train. Before we get into the regular questions that I ask my guests, as we're going more into the winter, can you share with people what are your top 3 tips for how folks can embody bliss more and prevent the burnout cycle?
Ooh, that's such a good question. The first thing that automatically came to my mind was being outside. As we're
Mm,
getting into the darker months over here in
yeah.
Canada, it's going to get real cold. And so people are going to start going inside, right? And they're going to
Yeah.
like retreat and hibernate. And oftentimes we do that this time of year. There definitely is like cycles to that. And I think
Yep.
it's important to honor that too. However, if we're wanting to try and maintain that bliss and maintain like that mental wellness, getting outside is so valuable. Like, no problem
Yeah.
is made worse by going outside,
Mm.
but most
Mhm.
problems are made 1% better by going outside.
Mm.
And I really believe that because there is
At
nothing
least.
like, at least, yeah,
At
at
least.
least. There is nothing like feeling the air on your face. I know that
Mhm.
you do like daily walks as much as you can by the ocean. Like,
Yes.
there is so much therapy in being
Mm.
outside, even for a short amount of time. And I don't know about you, but I actually have really leaned into, and this is why this is one of the actually one of the chapters in my book is about nature therapy, is I have really leaned into the last couple of years since the pandemic, especially into like how much change can happen in your mind when you go for a 20-minute hike outside and how much it does for you productivity wise, clarity wise, mood wise, like all of those things. So, number one is get outside. Get the F outside. That is what that chapter is called. Honestly, I might throw a fuck in
Yes.
there, you know?
Yes.
But just get outside. So that's
Yeah.
one of them. The
Get
other,
yourself a nice coat, a
yeah,
nice scarf, a hat. Get whatever you need.
all of it.
Put it on
Invest in a
and
good
get the
pair of
fuck outside.
boots.
Yep.
Good,
That.
boots are
Yeah.
very important. Can't wear running shoes in
Yes.
the winter anymore. I realize
Yeah.
that now. It's why I was always cold and miserable. I bought a fresh
Right.
pair of boots, like an actual real pair of boots 2 years ago. This is going to be ridiculous. Like good warm boots and
Yeah.
I
It's a
could
game
walk outside
changer.
for hours. A game changer.
Yeah.
The
Changer.
other thing that's really underrated is the power of protecting your own energy as it relates
Mm.
to like the things that you're committing to and doing, and also the people that you're spending your time with. Okay. Cause like
Yes.
our
Yes.
energy is very precious, our time is
Yes.
very precious. And if you are, again, a lot of the work that I do is if you are on some sort of pursuit of wellness, some sort of pursuit of happiness, you take on other people's energy like inadvertently when you spend time with
Mhm.
them. And so
Yeah.
when you're looking at the people that are in your life and the people that you're spending time with and the things that you're committing to, like what things feel heavy and what things feel light. And in your
Yeah.
life, if you want to maintain that balance, that homeostasis, if we're going to
Mhm.
talk psychology, you want to lean into the things that feel light and just like delete the things that feel
Mhm.
heavy. And so I started that off with like relationships and time, but it just really being mindful of your energy and protecting it. Because here's the thing is that a lot of us, unless we are, I don't really like to say woke, but I feel like it works really well here. Unless we are like
Mhm.
awakened from our autopilot and we have that
Mhm.
awareness of what's going on around us, right? As if we're not listening to our intuition, then
Yeah.
we can just get into this spiral of burnout and be like,
Yeah.
how did I get here? And
Mhm.
how do I get out? So this is why awareness is so important because it's like when you can be regularly aware or you have somebody like a coach, hello, you and I both, to be accountable to of like,
Yes.
staying in this place that you want to be. It can be hard to fall off the wagon. I also don't really love that term, but all of these like really are resonating well for this conversation.
Yeah.
Accountability is so huge. Go ahead.
Accountability is so huge. I have some questions.
Yeah.
As a person who is teetering on burnout right now, and this is the Realness podcast, Cunty Realness, so I'm
Mhm.
gonna be real.
Mhm.
I have so many questions about this. What happens if we're operating at 50% or at not our usual amount? Because that's what burnout is. It's like we are depleted. We are
Mhm.
not our normal selves. What happens? What does that actually cause?
Yeah. Well, here's what I can say about that is I think that every single one of us only has so much energy that we can give in a day, right? It's just we're not super people, right? We only have so much
Mhm.
energy that we can give in a day. And every single task, activity, conversation, potentially thing that we have to do in a day takes some of that energy, whether it's
Yeah.
like good or bad. I'm not talking about like energy suckers, although those take more energy typically.
Yeah.
But like everything takes energy. And so every time you sit down to do a task, a little bit of that energy is dwindled down. And if
Mhm.
every single day you only have 50% of your capacity, then you get depleted more quickly. And you're also not then replenishing. Our
Mm.
bodies we have these really complex mind, but we have these actually very simple physiological bodies that tell us we need rest, we need
Mhm.
comfort, we need feelings of safety, right? We need stillness, we need quiet. And we live in a culture that forgets that. And our brains are so
Or
complex that it forgets that.
or actively encourages against that, right? Because in entrepreneurship, we hear it all the time of, okay, we go outside of our comfort zone. We do
Mhm.
things that are hard. We don't give up. And it's not wrong,
Yeah.
but what is this doing to us? What is it causing to
I can
happen
tell you
other
right
than,
now,
yeah.
as somebody who is
Yeah.
just coming out of
Mhm.
burnout, just for a little bit of backstory. So I have a 8-year-old child daughter and a
Mhm.
17-month-old baby. And
Oh,
when Eloise was born, I was half in entrepreneurship and also working part time. So I took a maternity leave from my part time job, but still was like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I can still work from home while I'm raising this baby. So for a year and a half, I worked. I self produced a podcast. I tried to find clients. I did a lot of work stuff. Also, I was in the process of building and starting a potential new business. Anyway, we won't talk
and the
about that.
books, the
And
the body bliss.
the
Mhm.
books. And I didn't even mention healing from postpartum,
Mhm.
navigating 2 children now and
Yep.
all of those tasks that I am as a person outside of a business. And then we had this past summer, and I had both kids home with me for 8 weeks all the time, and I was still trying to work and still doing all of those things that we listed. And then at the beginning of September, when my older daughter went back to school, I was like, "Okay, now I can really get into a routine." And as I started getting into that routine, I all of a sudden found that I was like having these insane moments of overwhelm and these insane
Mhm.
feelings of anxiety that I just could not ignore. One situation in particular, I was sitting down watching a movie with my partner and I was staring at the TV
Mm.
and I was watching the movie, but not. My mind couldn't even actually retain anything that was happening in the movie. And I almost had this out of body experience where I'm like, my body is watching the TV, but my
Yeah.
mind is just racing and
Yeah.
never shutting off. And
Yeah.
I was getting sick. Like I got really sick
Mhm.
back to back. I was breaking out in a rash on my face. Like all of the like my body was saying to me, "Hello." And going
Yeah.
back to that conversation of like if you're not replenishing and you're only depleting, what happens?
Yeah.
You literally will physically crash. Your body will
Yeah.
physically go, "All right, enough is enough," if you don't
Yeah.
listen. And
Yeah.
I I don't wanna say that it was easy to, like, make that shift because, kinda like I said earlier, I'm very multi-passionate, and I think a lot of people listening to this show likely are as well, and there's a lot of things that really excite them about what they're doing and the path
Mhm.
that they're on. even the things that excite you, and you actually helped me to come to this realization, you and another friend
Mhm.
of ours, it's like, just because things feel exciting doesn't mean that they still don't take that energy away. And
Mhm.
we only have so much capacity. So, it meant that I had to
Yeah.
have a lot of really hard conversations with myself about
Yeah.
how can I go on like this.
Yeah.
One of the things that I did, and I'm not telling anybody who's listening to just make these like big changes, but I can say that I released the podcast that I
Mhm.
was hosting. Like I said, self-produced show, all the things.
Mhm.
And I felt a couple things about letting that go. One was that I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Like I really enjoyed
Mhm.
it, which is probably why I'm talking so much right now because it's been a long time since I've had
It's
the mic
okay.
in
We
front
love
of
it.
me.
We love
Um,
it.
but also I was really worried about what people would think. Like part of
Mhm.
my identity for 3 years was I was a podcaster. And
Yeah.
it's what are people gonna think about the fact that she's just not doing her show anymore? Like, it kinda felt like I was giving up.
Yeah.
And ironically enough, since I've released the podcast, no one has said anything about it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, what was I worried about? But we often create these stories in our heads. But
Yeah.
after I kind of was like, "Okay, what would it look like for me to actually release that podcast?" And I didn't make the decision right away. I considered it as an option, and I think that we sometimes know what the solutions are, but it
Mhm.
feels really scary to like consider that as an option. I invite you
Yeah.
to just look at what the potential options could look like and just sit with them. See
Mhm.
how they feel. Sleep on it, you know?
Yeah.
And
And consult your coach because
yeah. Yeah.
it's not a one size fits all. That's
No.
the most important thing, right? It's like each person's situation is unique. Each person's plate is unique. Each person's desires and goals and dreams and all of these things, we are all unique.
Yeah.
It's really powerful to work with a coach or someone who can take your exact situation and work through it with you and get those answers to come from you,
Yeah,
right?
ultimately, I don't think I would have been able to come to that. Maybe I would have. However, I don't think that I would have been able to explore that conversation in the way that I had without having a coaching type conversation, quite
Hmm.
frankly. And, I
Yeah.
sat with it. And then I remember waking up and thinking, yeah, I think this feels like the decision that I have to make for me. And do I miss it?
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Yeah.
But there's a large part of me that feels a lot of like, I think I might have told you this that, when I went and canceled all the interviews that I had scheduled upcoming, I just
Mm-hmm.
felt my body relax.
Mm-hmm.
And listening to your body in that way is like, that's your intuition saying you've made the right decision here. I'm still being really mindful of not filling up my calendar
Yes.
too
So
much.
that was going to be my next question because we're still on this second tip of yours that was protect your time and your energy. And
Mhm.
so that's what I was going to ask is how do we protect our time when there are things that we're excited about and opportunities arise, right? Because so we talked about things that are draining and things that we
Mhm.
need to be mindful about there and that are taking our how do we make that distinction and how do we make that hard decision when
Yeah.
it's something that we're so excited about?
I think that one of the things that's really helped me is just because we're not doing it right now, not everything has to be a right now do. It can be something
Right.
that we do in a year from now. My
Yes.
signature coaching program is called the Holistic Body Connection. And
Yes.
I was talking to another entrepreneur, a friend of mine, and she was like, "You know what would be really cool is if you did like a holistic body connection retreat where it was like a weekend where
Mm.
people came together and you basically moved them through all of the modules in that weekend." And I was like,
Wow.
"That would be so." Immediately, I was like, "Oh, I love that
Yes.
idea." But then I was
Yeah.
like, "But I don't have to do it right now." Like,
Now.
I don't
Right.
have to
Yeah.
do it right now. And so another thing that I've really been really extra mindful of doing when text messages come in or when asks come
Mm.
in or whatever it
Mhm.
is waiting to respond instead of immediately reacting. If somebody asks me something, taking a minute to like, okay, I don't have to answer right now. I don't have to say
Right.
yes right now. Take a minute and really think about what that means. If somebody says, like, hey, can you help me with this thing? I really need help with this. I'm the type of person who really wants to help. And so I've been learning to take a minute and be like, okay, as
Mhm.
much as I would love to help, do I actually have the capacity to take this on right now? And
Right.
part of that kind of relates into like the people that you have in your circle, because if you have people in your circle who you feel safe to like say, here's where I'm at right now. I don't know that I actually can help with that, or I don't know. I would love to make that event, but I can't, I just can't. It's not something that I
Yeah.
can commit to. It all
Yeah.
comes back to like setting up boundaries, right? And like
Yes.
honoring your own boundaries before you will break them for somebody else. And just like in those small moments, yeah, like taking that time to like really think through what that means. And if you have the capacity to do it before just answering.
I love that. As a former flight attendant, I come with the cliche of like putting your oxygen mask
Yeah.
on before assisting someone else. And we have to think about it like that, because if we don't, and if we apply that analogy, we will pass out, right? And then we're helpful to nobody, right? So
Yeah.
if we put on ours first, then we can assist people around us. We can do the thing. But if we are tapped out, then we cannot.
And you don't wanna
So
hang
I
around
love
people who
that.
are gonna try and pull off your oxygen mask. Like, you want your
Right.
friends you want people around who are gonna, like, make sure and tell you to keep it on,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
Like, keep "No,
Yes.
no,
I
no, keep
love
your
that.
oxygen mask on. It's okay. Like, we got this."
Right. It's like it's saying, okay, it's safe for you to ask for help, and it's safe for me to know when I can and when I can't.
Mhm.
I love that. I love that so much. I wanted to witness the people out there who are listening who are like me, and witness myself that it goes back to that thing that you said of it doesn't need to be right now. Like
Mhm.
I need to remind myself of that all the time, because the scarcity mindset that sometimes creeps in is like it has to be this time. It has to be now. It's now or never. There's so much of that, and I am a action oriented person, right? I take on a lot, and I'm realizing that I need to slow down a little bit. And so I just wanted to offer that like virtual hug to anyone else who feels that way and feels sometimes like that scarcity mindset comes in and wants us to do the thing now. And that's what a lot of marketing does, right? A lot of the
Mhm.
marketing out there does play on our urgency and like,
Sign up
now
for
or
the course
never.
now. The doors are closing now. They won't be opening
Yeah.
again until whenever. Like, that's what's coming up for me.
Yeah, or and I'm guilty of this too, right? But like early bird pricing is now, right? So I'm thinking like, okay, yes, I want this. So I need to do it now, because then if I don't, I'm going to have to pay like a lot more. It's just being mindful and just keeping this gem that you gave us about it doesn't have to be now, really remembering that and offering that to us as like a gift and a hug of you are enough. And I need
Mhm.
this reminder a lot, right? It's like we are enough as we are. We don't need another thing. We don't need to jump on it. If our plate can't handle it, for
Yeah.
sure. I can say that. If our plate cannot handle it, we can catch the next time. An example of this, if I can share one, is it literally came up for me this week. I already know that I'm at capacity this week. I have a really important job that I'm doing this week, which is leading the squads at Hello 7. And my friend messaged me on Monday saying, I have an extra ticket for Web Summit, which is like a massive conference happening in Lisbon every year. And it's the ticket is at least 1,000. I don't remember exactly what it is, right? And she was saying it would be free. And I was like, oh my God, what an opportunity. I could go and network. I could go and learn some stuff, and I can make it work so that I can take the calls. And I was doing mental backflips and somersaults to figure out how I could take this ticket and go to this event. And I had to really work through it and be like, does this have to be now?
Mhm.
Is this something that makes sense with my current plate? Right? That is the biggest thing, is with my current plate.
Well, and also to be fair, like sometimes things do come up where it's like this actually would be really valuable, beneficial, etc.
Sure.
for
Yeah.
me to do. But it goes back to that reacting versus responding where it's like, okay,
Right.
I'm evaluate what the potential ROI on this could be, what the potential opportunity could be from this, how much time is it going to take me? What am I sacrificing? What am I sacrificing? What am I compromising? What am I giving up? Essentially,
Yes.
what work am I just deferring to my future self? And then weighing all of those things against each other. And sometimes the answer
Yeah.
still is, you know what? I need to suck it up for 2 weeks and do this thing. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's okay if the answer is no, I'm actually not going to do this thing. But it's just
Yeah.
taking a moment to like tune inward and listen
Yes.
to that instead of just like jumping the gun right away.
Yeah. And I had to be real about what we said earlier about protecting your energy as well. So it's not only time, it's also an energy thing. This
Yeah.
event hosts, it says on the website, 70,000 plus people. And I'm like,
That's so many people.
let me just think for a second, because even as an extrovert, okay, even as an extrovert, with my plate the way it currently is, and my energy is like not at its highest, right? It's
Operating
not
at
like,
50.
right? Like we're doing the best we can. Maybe going to a tech event, which I'm not even in tech, okay? Like I'm not even in tech, right? And with that many people, and like, I think we have to think about the energy. We have to think about what that would do for our nervous system. It's such a relevant example to what everything that we're talking about. Thanks for letting me share that example.
Always.
And yes, I want to get one more hot tip for helping people avoid burnout this season. And always, right?
One other thing that I did, and we kind of like already touched on this, but I didn't like super highlight it as a hashtag tip number 3. Um, and that is like getting some accountability, getting a coach,
Mm.
getting a therapist. Like, so for me in September, I
Mhm.
was like, oh heavens, I think I need to see a therapist
Yes.
again. And it's so funny because I booked that therapist in September and I didn't have my first visit until the middle of October. And come the
Mm.
middle of October, I was like, I feel okay. What are we going to talk about? And
Yeah.
so we got there, or I got there, and shocker, I was talking for an hour. Um, and so all throughout the conversation, this therapist was able to pull out. She's like, could it be valuable for you to just have somebody to hold you accountable to continue to do the things that you're doing right now to keep you out of burnout? And I was like,
Yes.
yeah, because here's the
Mhm.
thing is that as a coach, I know
Mhm.
the shit that I need to do because I tell people about it all the time. Do I do it all of the time? For sure
No.
not.
No.
And so that's what got me in this place in the first place, or got me to this
Yeah.
place initially.
Yeah.
So the accountability and the support and having somebody that is there on the outside who's calling you on your shit, who
Yeah.
is holding you accountable to doing the things that you say you want to do. We often think about like investing in a business coach to help us like reach our business goals. And of course, that's a valuable thing to do. But like, what about like a wellness coach? What about like a
Yes.
therapist, somebody who's holding you accountable to taking care of your mind? Because
Yeah.
circling all the way back to if you're operating at 50%, chances are you don't have enough energy left to take care of and pour into your mind. And
Yeah.
so you're going to stay in this cycle
Yes.
indefinitely. And we don't want
Yes.
that. So
Yes.
accountability, support, coach, therapist, all of the things.
I love that. And I fully endorse that message too. I think that we tend to get into like hyper independent modes sometimes where we think, I can do this. I know what to do. I can do this. I just have to blank. Or I just, we tell ourselves these things, but
Or we
it's a,
say, I should know
yeah,
what to do, you know?
yes,
And it's like,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
anyway, I shoulds. No,
yeah,
thank you.
yes. No. We are shitting on shoulds. Not welcome here. Yeah, so that accountability piece and just knowing that someone has got your back other than you. It's a
Hmm.
lot to just always feel like we have to have our own backs all the time. So having that friend, coach, therapist, mentor, whatever it is, to who's going to dedicate their time and effort and energy to you, Like,
Mhm.
that is such a gift, really. So one of the biggest gifts that we can give to ourselves is that gift of support and getting someone that can just pour into us, because we often
Mhm.
pour so much into everyone else.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that's what sometimes gets us in these situations,
Well,
right?
that's this Bloom event that I'm working on with
Mm.
3 other women who are very similar to
Yes.
us in this mentality. So, Bloom is an event that's happening in Kitchener, Ontario in March 2024. So, listen, if you want to travel
Woo!
and come, it's going to be
Mm.
such a beautiful day of really helping people to do exactly what we're talking about. It's like we are going to create the space. We are 4 coaches who are committed to helping people show up, become like realize
Mhm.
the best version of themselves and create this space for people to bloom and
Yeah.
flourish in their everyday lives. And sometimes we need to buy the ticket or make the investment to like get into
Yes.
that space where somebody is going to support us to do that. Because it's less
Yes.
likely if we're sitting at home with looking around at all the things that have to happen, or like
Mhm.
we're in the day to day with there's lots of distractions. Let's be real. There's lots of fucking distractions.
Yeah.
It can be so powerful to make that investment, to take the time to spend an hour, a
Mm.
day, a retreat with like somebody who's going to say, listen, all you have to do is show up and I will take
Yeah.
care of the rest to support you.
Yes.
And that is
Yes.
like such a beautiful gift that not
Yeah.
enough of us spend the time considering that we need. And we all need it.
Or deserve, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Like, am
Is
I
like,
worthy of this?
yeah, like there's that kind of that feeling of I can have that? Like that's a thing that
Mhm.
I can have
Yeah.
that?
This is your
Yes.
permission slip. Yes, you can.
Yes.
And yes, you
We get to
deserve
have that.
to have that time. So, yeah, Bloom is going to be so
Yes.
incredible for just like self discovery, figuring out what you're carrying, what you can let go of, really leaning into vulnerability, really
Mm.
leaning into these conversations that you're having with yourself. And
Yeah.
being in the room with like minded people who are also willing to lean into that. Like when talking about energy, there is some kind of energy that comes from
Yes.
being in a room like that. Like what you talked about, that you
Yes.
said that we met at the most back in April. I can't
Mhm.
tell you the shifts and expansions that have happened in my life as a result
Mm.
of making the decision to say yes and go to
Yes.
that event, putting myself in the room around people who have that kind of energy. Like that is also really
Yes.
underrated.
Yay! I love that conversation. And just a reminder for whoever's listening, I will remind you that I do have another episode about that exact thing. The Cunty decision to get on the motherfucking plane.
Oh
That
my
was
gosh, that just
episode
came out
3.
recently, right? Oh, was that a while
Yeah.
ago? Oh,
Well, girl, this podcast was launched in the beginning of September. So everything is recent.
that's true. That's true.
Right? Yes. So if you haven't heard that, go back and listen. But coming back to this, Bloom, I'm so excited for you and the other amazing coaches who are hosting it. It's going to be phenomenal. So, whoever is listening to this that needs that in their lives and wants that, and you deserve it, and you want to pour that into yourself, grab your ticket. I love that accountability piece, right? Because there's another thing, right? It's one thing to start something. It's a whole nother ball game to continue it, right?
Mhm.
And that's where accountability can also help you shine, is like to build on habits or to strengthen those muscles that we need to strengthen, those habits that we need to strengthen.
That's a lot of the
Um
conversations that I have with people is it's like, okay, because
yeah.
oftentimes people come to me is it's like they want to change the way that they're eating or the way that they're
Mhm.
moving their body. That's typically how it starts. And,
Mhm.
you know, if I had a penny for I guess pennies don't exist anymore. If I had a dollar for every time that somebody said like, "Oh, I get motivated and then I lose my motivation." And it's because
Mhm.
motivation is fleeting. And what
Yes.
we need to be focusing on instead of motivation is we need to be focusing on discipline and we need to be focusing on consistency. And even
Mhm.
those things, because we are human beings, having an
Yeah.
ebb and flow type of experience, even consistency and discipline can sometimes be challenging for us. So, I
Absolutely.
feel like every single human needs accountability in some sort of capacity,
Yeah.
whether it's a friend, whether it's a
Yeah.
coach, whether it's a therapist. Like accountability is like what makes the world go round and what keeps us performing in the way that we want to. Because those
Yeah.
accountability people are going to be like really reminding us of what our goals are and supporting us to continue on that trajectory.
Okay, okay. Let's challenge the people listening. Are you let's do it. Okay,
I'm here.
so we're challenging you, dear listener. What is one goal that you want to keep accountable to? And who is one person that can help you stay accountable to it? Let us know. Find us on the Instagrams
Yeah,
and
I love
let us
this.
know. Yes, we are getting accountable right here, right now. Text them, be like, you're my accountability buddy for this. Okay, yay, I can't wait to hear what your goal is and who is going to help keep you accountable.
Okay, so
Oh,
Naomi, what is your one goal
yes.
and who is going to keep you accountable?
Ooh, okay. There's been something I've been wanting to do, and I haven't got up the nerve to do it yet because I haven't found the person, the accountability buddy for this yet. So maybe you can be my accountability buddy. I want to send a text in the morning of like, here's what my dream day would look like today, or something where you get to set the intention of your day. You get to like create what you want to see in your life. So I've been wanting to do something like that to
Like
really,
send it to your community?
yeah, or like one person who can send it back to me as well and be like, cool, like here's what my ideal day or dream day today looks like, right? Because then if you say it, you're more likely to stay accountable to it, right? And
Mm,
do that thing or make decisions that align with that intention you've already set in the morning.
I love that. I would be happy to support you on that. Like we're going to talk more about what that
Yay!
looks like and I
Yeah.
mean, we're in different time zones, but it doesn't matter because then
Yeah.
I'll wake up to something lovely from you.
Aw. Yay! Yes. Thank you.
You're
What is
welcome.
yours?
I would say that mine is so it is like the middle of November right now,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't have many weeks left in this year. And my goal, truthfully, is to finish out this year maintaining staying out of burnout, being
Mm-hmm.
really mindful each week about what I'm taking on. Like for one thing that I've really realized is quite important to me that I didn't have for a really long time is because I spent all of my evenings working always. And so every
Right.
evening I was working until 10 p.m. and I was rushing putting my child to sleep so I could go and get the work done. And
Yeah.
since I made that decision in mid September, my evenings have just been so peaceful. It's almost every single night
Yay.
I was like, I don't have anything to do tonight. And so I've
Yeah.
been, catching up on house stuff or like baking or watching a show that I enjoy, like going in the hot tub, like
Yes.
just doing
Yes.
easy, like human being stuff as opposed to doing entrepreneur stuff all the time. So
Yes.
leaning more into
Yes.
just
So
like
important.
human activities during the
Yes.
evening and maintaining that out of burnout state with my calendar.
Love it. And who is the accountability person
My
that can help you with
therapist is
that?
being that person for me right now, which is really
Yes.
helpful because I know I'm like, okay, I'm seeing her on tomorrow. What do I have to report back? Like, how is she's going to
Right.
ask me how this month has been? And I can't
Right.
lie, nor do I want to because that's not going to help me in the
Don't lie to
process.
your
Yeah.
therapist.
Yeah. Disclaimer.
They will know.
Yeah,
They will know.
legit.
Okay.
So, anyway, that's who's holding me accountable for the rest of this year.
Yay! I love it. Okay, so listener, let us know. What do you want to stay accountable to, and who is going to be your accountability buddy?
I love it.
Tell me about a time in your life and business where you had to be or you were cunty. So courageous, unapologetic, notable, transcendent, authentically you.
Well, I can tell you in that moment, I didn't realize I was being cunty, but reflecting back, I'm like, "Oh, this is what I was
Right?
doing." So I just
Yes.
finished writing a chapter called Stop Carrying Their Story and Start Carrying Yours.
Mm.
And one
Love
of the
it.
stories that I shared in that chapter was about, so when I finished maternity leave with my first child, I was really anxious about going back to work. And at that time, because I really didn't want to work in like the corporate 9 to 5 structure, I was trying to find a way that I could not do that. And
Mhm.
at that, this is like 2018, 2017, and I
Mhm.
didn't really know about working for yourself and being in business for yourself. And that
Right.
was a whole new world to me that
Mhm.
I had no idea about until I started being more interested in the pursuit of wellness and explored a holistic health coaching certification. And while I was doing that certification, I noticed that there were people that were doing that. They were like having independent coaching businesses where they were connecting with people, creating their own schedules, having time
Yeah.
freedom during the day, like all of these things. And I was like, that seems really attractive to me for a number of different reasons. One, my innate value of creating impact for people and spreading
Mhm.
that wellness, but also this desire to just have a different life than what I was told that my
Sold.
life could look
Mhm.
like. And
Mhm.
so after I finished my certification, I like went real deep into what it could look like to build a business and researching and doing all the things and really like making a plan.
Wow.
And I shared that story with somebody close in my life about what my plan was. And here's what I was, where I was headed in terms of my goals. And the response that I got from that was like, why would you leave your safe 9 to 5 job when you have benefits there and you have a child to worry about? That's really risky. Why
Mm.
would you do that? It's not just about you, right? It's also about like your family.
Mm.
And in the
Wow.
chapter, I'm like, no fault to that person because
Yeah.
they've just got the programming that we've also been sold and told, right? Like it just continues down
Absolutely.
carrying down until that cycle is acknowledged and broken. And
Yeah.
so in that moment, yes, I did carry that story a little bit. However, I didn't let it stop me. Here I am now in 2023, completely living my own time-free
Yes.
life. So it has taken time to get there, but in that moment I was like, well, no. Like I'm going to do the thing, the scary thing, the courageous thing, the
Wow.
unapologetic thing of like I don't want this. This is what I want instead. And
Yeah.
so I pursued that actively and
Mhm.
never gave up that dream. It hasn't come without its challenges, let me fucking tell you. Um, but,
Yeah.
it has paid off, and it
Yeah.
hasn't necessarily come in the time frame that I wanted it to or how we
Mhm.
thought it would look, but here I
But
am.
here you are. Here you are, and your kids are well. Like
Mhm.
your family, you are well. So that is amazing because that story that that person was carrying was a story of scarcity, a
Mhm.
story of what if it goes wrong, as opposed to Andrea, you're gonna be amazing. You're so capable.
Mm.
This is fantastic. Your family has so much to gain from this. I'm so glad that you were able to challenge that and not let it stop you. And
Mhm.
what would you, because I know that there are so many people that upon hearing that are going to shake their head and be like, "Yep, I was told that too.
Mm.
That happened to me." And so, what would be if you had one just impact or lesson?
Just
Yeah.
trust yourself that ultimately you know what's best for you, and that
Mhm.
if you're operating in a decision in a way that is best for you, then nobody else can tell you otherwise because they don't know what's best for you as well as what's best for you.
Correct.
So just trust yourself.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of outside noise, opinions, thoughts
Mhm.
about anything that you're doing, but keeping your own internal moral compass strong and keep forging forward, finding your people. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Trust yourself. Believe that if you were excited and you got this inspiration and you had this energy flow about this idea that and this dream, like believe in that. Believe that. Don't let other people's opinions matter more than your own. Just to
Yeah.
complement what you said.
100%.
Yay! So I want to ask you what is next for your Cunty life and business. And then I'll also ask how you can serve our audience as well.
Honestly, what is next for me is more speaking, more getting out there on stages at events and conferences and summits
Yes.
and places where people are gathered together to share this message of wellness and what that can actually look like. There's a
Yes.
lot of like business conferences and all those sorts of things that like we need to inject more wellness and
Yes.
stories and mindset
Hmm.
stuff into those because I think that those
Yes.
play such a valuable role in everything. So listen, if you need a speaker at your next event, we'll travel. So reach out to me.
Yes.
I have a lot of like really cool centering workshops that I do with like corporate businesses and stuff like that. And then also if anybody is looking for coaching, I have like hourly sessions that people can invest in. But just
Hmm.
over the years, I've really found that there's like foundational things that are really valuable to implement in your wellness journey, which is why I built
Yeah.
the holistic body connection program. So it's like really like breaking down everything you thought that should be wellness and then building up that new foundation of
Hmm.
sustainability. It ain't a quick fix because there's no such thing. But
Yeah.
instead, in those 8 weeks, 9 weeks, actually, technically, that we work together, we're rebuilding that foundation so that after we spend that time together, you can confidently go out into your life and be like, all right, I've got my tools. I know what serves me
Yes.
well. And I also understand that there are ebbs and flows in life. And I also
Mm.
understand that grace and compassion and acceptance for myself are all really helpful in this process as well. So those are the
Yeah.
two big things that are next for me. I'm really leaning into those ways of serving. So yeah, hit me up if that sounds like
Yay.
it resonates with you.
Yes. And Andrea is officially Bear Life Coaching certified.
Yes, I
So
am.
you better believe it. That is going to even just infuse itself into that holistic body connection
Mhm.
coaching even more.
Mhm.
I know when I was a new parent, like with a 1 year old or something at home in the pandemic, like this, I needed this.
Mm.
And I searched for something similar, but I'm so, so excited now for our listeners and whoever is needing that. Like, I need to redefine what wellness means
Mm.
because that is such a good point, right? We've been taught things like, for example, going to the gym. Okay. I'm not a big gym fan. I'm just going to put that right out there. And so for so long, I've felt bad about that. Felt like I'm failing somehow or that I'm like making excuses or whatever. And then I recently signed up for some personal training and I'm like, I love this. This feels like wellness to me. Going to a gym and just staring at the machinery is like, that's not my idea of wellness. So it's really relearning what we've been taught and finding what works for us. So that
Mhm.
is so exciting. And I've heard about your corporate workshops and I know they are absolute fire and so transformative. So exciting. And then of course you have the Bloom event in March. So
Yeah. Come
so
to
so
Bloom.
much exciting.
We created a song for
Yes.
the event, the Venga Boys song, Boom Boom. It's bloom,
Oh
bloom,
my
bloom,
god.
bloom. We want you in the room. Come spend the day
Ah!
together. Together we will bloom.
Oh my god, amazing. Oh my god, I love it. It's so cheesy, but I love it.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
so
it.
good.
I love it. Oh my
Thank
gosh,
you
I'm
so
so
much.
happy for you all. Thank you so much, Andrea, for stopping by on your podcast tour. this was It was such a pleasure to have you on and just have you share these absolute gems with our community that I know are just going to help so much,
I hope so.
especially as we go into the holiday season and just everything, right? We need this. We need to gift ourselves this self-love and just these permission slips,
Mhm.
right? These were also mega permission slips to prioritize these things.
Yeah, 100%. We definitely need these reminders all the time, but we're heading into holidays. We're also heading into like new year, new you time. And that can often be like really triggering for people of feeling like they're not doing
Yes.
enough and that they aren't enough. And so
Mhm.
then they're looking, they're like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, I should be, I should be like trying to be new,
Right.
and then they're maybe,
Right.
like, looking for it in the places where they're not gonna be really supported and seen. So,
Yes.
I see
Yes.
you, I support you, and I welcome you with
Aw.
open arms.
Yay! Thank you so much. And all of the info and the links will be in the show notes, everybody. So check that out, please. Thank you
Bye.
so much. Bye.